Okay, folks, and this podcast is sponsored by King Arthur Capital Group. Fund your fight camp, showing fighters how to leverage credit and capital so they can treat their career like a business. Always excited to share information about King Arthur Capital Group with as many people out there as possible. So if you're looking to make your career work a little bit better for you, looking to help fund your next fight camp, hit up King Arthur Capital Group at Fund Your Fight Camp on Instagram. Also, check out Fight Club Crate, mystery fight gear, knockout prices, undisputed value, combat sports boxes delivered monthly. Use my promo code TAPTHAT15 at Fight Club Crate for 15% off of your first purchase. And follow those folks on Instagram at Fight Club Crate. Very cool stuff. And especially with Father's Day, just 14 days away. Finally, a winner of a gift idea for the combat connoisseur in your life. And finally, Substats is the analytics and intelligence platform for competitive grappling. They give promoters, leagues, commentators the data they've never had, matchmaking tools, athlete profiles, event breakdowns, and match analysis powered by computer vision. If you compete, promote, or just love the sport, check them out at substats.app. It's the information, the layer of the sport that it's been missing. So check them out at substats.app and use my promo code TATTHAT for 10% off of your initial purchase with Substats. And with me today, you heard it there, folks. Rachel, Unbreakable Beauchamp. Thank you very much for being here, Rachel. How's it going today?
Pretty good.
So I gotta the thing that I've seen the most, from your Instagram profile over the last couple of weeks, is the lead up and then the circumstances of your most recent fight. So unfortunate circumstances there. I know you had a lot to say about it. Tell everybody who's listening what exactly happened right before that last fight that was scheduled.
Well, I went to weigh-ins the day before and did all my forms, got my permits, and then I went outside to sit because it was taking a while to get weigh-in started. Went outside, ended up getting bit by a spider, and I had some other stuff going on back at the house with my kid, and ended up the next day, woke up and I was in shock from the bite. My hand was swollen. I had a red line going from the bite up my arm. So my gym manager was like, you have to go to the hospital. And I was like, no. And we went back and forth on that for a little while. So I ended up going because I started thinking, what if this isn't a spider bite? What if it's a staph infection and it's on my knuckle and I don't want to, end up hitting her and giving her staph. So I was like, maybe I should just go check. It was a spider bite. And I didn't know I was allergic to spiders. Never had that happen before. So anyhow, I ended up having to take medicine and the sedatives they gave me that are in the antihistamines ended up putting me out. So I ended up not being able to go. Not that I think even without the sedatives, I don't think the commission would have passed me in the pre-fight physical because my hand was noticeably swollen. So unfortunately, I didn't get to do it. And yeah, I mean, I'm devastated because I put a lot into that camp.
Oh my God. And I'm going to actually share my screen real quick because I have the picture you put on Instagram pulled up, and I want to show people what that looked like initially. So here we go. Right there. Yeah, yesterday I was bit by a spider and ended up having a major allergic reaction. My God.
Yes. On my knuckle. That was the crazy part for a bare knuckle fight to get bit on your knuckle. Just almost felt like it was God or something because how does that happen? And I even felt completely blown away. It just felt awful. And I feel bad for Elizabeth. Like, my heart breaks for her. And I understand, like, she was there, she was ready to go. Um, I do feel bad, but there was nothing I could do. This wasn't I got scared. You know, nothing.
I mean, this is nothing like any other reason that a fight gets like called off, because if someone misses weight by like 5 pounds, it's like, okay, like I know that because even if they had a health, thing leading up to it, people are still going to talk about why they think they missed weight. If they say, oh, I had an ankle injury the week before in camp, people are going to be like, okay, they had an ankle injury, and either people believe it or they don't. Holy shit, you got bit by a spider like in the middle of weigh-ins and everything. You were ready to go, and I mean, the luck of that is just horrific. And then for the unfortunate circumstance of it turning into so much more because you were allergic to it.
Yes, that was the hard part for me, and I got upset with her because she just said my opponent didn't show up to the fight. She pulled out, and I'm thinking, I would have been better if she had have said my opponent had a medical emergency, whatever. So that's why I kind of got angry, because I was like, at least tell the whole truth. Because there's nothing in this world that would stop me from going to that fight other than an allergic reaction. A death in the family has stopped me from fights. But I don't duck fights. And anybody that knows me knows that I take extremely hard and dangerous fights. It's just who I am.
I mean, that is very evident from just your record, like in total. So like your pro fighting career isn't that, it hasn't been going back that long, but just in the year 2025, the amount of fights that you took, and it's been such a high activity level. What is fueling you to fight that many times in 2025? Like, is it just like, like I don't know how long, like this, I started my career late. I want to fight as many times as I possibly can and make up for time I wish I was fighting?
Not exactly. So I've been fighting ever since I was 9. I didn't start fighting sanctioned until 2022. I just love to fight.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of people are like, oh, she's making up for lost time. That's never been correct. I fought my whole life. So there's no truth to I'm making up for lost time. It would have been better for me if I hadn't have fought so much, because I've taken a lot of substantial damage over my life.
So when you say that you've been fighting since you were 9, you just mean like just socially, like it just in life, like as time goes on and different situations happen?
So it started out that way as a kid, but some kids at school found out things that were happening in my home, and they had jumped me, and we got to fight. And then I got notorious in the community for my fighting. Like, I made the papers when I was 12, and they published my name, much to my mom's dismay, and our address. I was only 12.
Oh my God.
But everybody knew about my fights. So I ended up getting pulled into a backyard fight club as a kid. And they had me fight just boys. There were no other females. And we all fought bare knuckle. So there were no gloves. There were no refs. It was just adult spot tickets to watch us kids fight.
That did leave me a little speechless, like especially like the last sentence, the way that like, I mean, that's pretty wild. For that to be where your early life experience comes from. I'll tell you, I've never heard anybody say anything like that, like on this podcast. That's very interesting. That like that. So like, what was your training then, like as a kid? Was it just something you picked up, or was it something you were like training formally in any way?
No, I never trained. And that's what I learned pretty quick when I got into actual sanctioned fighting, is that's different, right? Like you can win backyard street fights on toughness, sanctioned fights against trained fighters that have actually taken martial arts. You don't always have such easy luck. Um, and I had to learn that pretty quick. I mean, obviously, like my first amateur fight, I won. I look back and cringe on that because my skill was awful. Um, but I won. And then after that, it got hard because I started fighting people that had been training for decades and I was outskilled a lot.
Huh. So, I mean, yeah, that's a great point. Now, like, so you're fighting out of Greensboro, North Carolina. Now I'm here in northern Kentucky, like right across the river from Cincinnati. I do have to say, every time I've driven through the state of North Carolina, I'm just like, my God, this state is gorgeous. Like it seriously, like I mean, especially when you hit like more, mountainous areas and everything. Like I do think North Carolina is an absolutely beautiful state, despite any like basketball rivalries that exist between the two states and whatnot. Um, so like what is the regional scene in the state of North Carolina like? Like, are there a lot of have you been able to find a good amount of promotions that you like to work with that like you think are, that do good business and put on good shows?
So North Carolina, I don't think has a great fight scene. We have a few. Fight for It's decent. Um, who else do we have? UBG. We have that. It's not. I don't know. I'm not gonna trash it. It's just it's got its own issues. I think they're trying to fix it. I think Fight Lab's getting ready to start back up. I've heard great things about that, but we really don't have the promotions. That's why I've traveled all over the country fighting. If you look at my Tapology, I've been everywhere. So,
What has been your like favorite location to fight in so far?
even though I lost the fight, I would say when WFC brought me to Washington to fight, we fought at, I can't remember, the Alani Casino. And that was a very nice casino. Very, very nice.
So are there noticeable differences between how some of these promotions across states like do business and how easy they can be to work with and get a fight together with?
So, yes, I think like WFC probably has the best. I've heard mixed reviews, but I'm going to honestly say, with my experience and fighting for like 11 to 12 promotions now, that's probably the best. He provides amazing warm up areas. Um, Sometimes, like he's helped me out with food while I'm there, whatever. Um, I'm treated well. So I actually do like his promotion probably above everybody else's.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're going to travel a long distance, those little things can make a big difference.
Yeah.
So right now, like in the aftermath of the spider bite, and everything, like, so what is the plan for the next fight? Like, I mean, I assume that all the medical like complications, like, I assume there's no commission issue anymore. So it's just like now you're just kind of looking for what your next fight's gonna be, or do you have one in the that's lined up?
I have four. So I've come at jujitsu August 1st, and I'm in negotiations with Elizabeth to reschedule. I think we're pretty close on sealing that deal. And then I've got, after that, I've got Lethway October 3rd, and then I've got Low Kick Championship in California November 21st.
Low kick championship. So explain to folks what that format is like.
So literally, you have to stand in a box. You can't leave the box, and your opponent's in their own box. And it's just you trade low kick for low kick, and then whoever's falls and can't get back up says stop or their leg breaks. That's how you win.
The last one is so crazy to hear. Like, yeah, like if your leg breaks, you're out. Like, oh my god, like, and this is something I discuss on here a lot. Is I'm always impressed by how many new ideas for not even like just like new ideas for new sports, practically. New micro sports within combat sports. Like dirty boxing has been like a very cool format to watch since that started. And, bare knuckle as even though that's technically older than pretty much any combat sport that exists, the way that they have brought it about and like promoted it in recent years is very clever. And so like, and then there's karate combat and there's combat jujitsu. There's so many different separate facets within combat sports that people are able to fight in, and low kick being another one of those. It's so interesting, the amount of ways that people can think of to put on fights in this business.
Yes, I think low kick's been around for a while, just not states, and I considered traveling out of the country to go do it. So when I saw Chainsaw Fitness had one, I was like, put me in,
So what's the appeal of that to you specifically, if that's something that you've been like looking to do?
Because I'm insanely tough. Like, I know I can take pretty much anything anybody throws at me. And this is a chance to prove it. So one of my fights last year, August 16th, I fought Skylar Thrasher. She broke 5 of my ribs, broke my nose, and she exploded both of my elbows. And I still fought. Like 3 weeks after, the day after that, I did a super fight. And then less than 24 hours. And then 3 weeks later, I did a combat jiu-jitsu fight. And then I went right back to fighting MMA. So that was with broken ribs.
So, like, you fought at both bantamweight and featherweight, correct?
I fought flyweight, fly, bantam, and feather, and I've made 116 one time to go against Emily Keck for combat jiu-jitsu. So that's, I guess, strawweight technically.
Yeah, how was the cut to strawweight? Was that like clearly a one-time thing when you did it, or is it something you could have seen yourself doing again?
I will never do that again. It was absolutely awful. And I was only like 116 for maybe 5 minutes before I blew back up to 130. Never again. That was awful.
Oh my god. Well, like, so what are the differences? I love women's featherweight, where it exists right now. I think like I love that like promotions like PFL, like we're doing the Grand Prix of 145 and 155. Because I hate to see those fights disappear from like the UFC level. And I think like with fighting, a lot of the time, I think it's more like a Field of Dreams thing. Like if you build it, they will come. And like I think like if people see that like there's UFC women's featherweight fights, you're more likely to, over the longer period of time, get the quality of fights that you want to be able to put on. That those bigger weight classes was where like the pillars of women's MMA were really founded. But like everybody that I talk to, like it is certainly, it can be challenging to find the fights that you want at women's featherweight. There's not a ton of people necessarily fighting there anymore. People have been trying to make their way down to bantamweight or featherweight or flyweight because there's just going to be more opportunities. Those are divisions that are more in the spotlight at the premier level. But I love women's featherweight and I love women's bantamweight whenever they put it on, because that's right now that's the biggest weight class you're really seeing, like at the UFC level. And so right now, like, what are the differences to you in like when you're fighting at bantamweight, you're fighting at featherweight? and how difficult those fights can be to get. Like who the opponents end up being. Like what are the differences to you between those divisions at the regional level right now?
I mean, honestly, I don't have problems getting fights because I take pretty much anything they throw at me. Um, in all the weight classes. The biggest thing I noticed is 145 is pretty difficult for me. I'm not built, my frame is not built for that heavy of a weight class. They hit really, really hard. Knockout power, that's where I got knocked out, was at 145. 25ers, 35ers typically don't hit that hard. The only one that I know that's at a smaller weight class that hits like a 45er is Kayla Sriord. She hits extremely hard, and she's small. So I don't know. I think maybe 25ers probably move faster. 45ers are slower. But as far as finding fights, I think I see that across all women's weight classes. 105ers struggle immensely to find fights. Straw weight, everybody I talk to, and a lot of it is more people ducking than anything. Like they don't want the hard fights.
So many atom weights, like because I love atom weight too. I've been adamant like for yeah, I would love to see that at the UFC. Japan puts on such good atom weight fights. And there are so many fighters for years that fought at the strawweight level in the UFC that shouldn't have been at strawweight, or they would have been better at atom weight. I always
Yeah,
said like Michelle Waterson could have been like UFC champion for like 4 years at atom weight had that existed at the time. And so, just like when the UFC didn't have flyweight, and there were guys fighting at bantamweight that you thought that would never be champions, and then they have UFC flyweight, and they end up, being at the top of the division for years. If a weight class is not available to somebody who, like, look, like based on their size, based on their frame, that is their weight class, and if they go heavier, it's just a different thing. Um, because you see it with women's featherweight too, where like there are some women that are even trying to fight like in bantamweight right now in the UFC, where it's like you are just too big for bantamweight. Like they just are 145ers. And you see them suffer because of it. You see them miss weight multiple times and look like when they get taken down, look like they're drained, naturally because they cut way too much. Macy Chiasson is one that I think of. Like every time I see her fight at bantamweight, it's like for real. Like with that frame, like you really got. And there's a reason that she's had issues making bantamweight. That's been difficult. So the weight classes is always such a hard thing because there are also people's body frames that their perfect weight isn't necessarily one of those. You're kind of making sacrifices no matter what weight class you pick.
I agree. Like I honestly, I think females we have a way harder time cutting weight anyway. Um, and then you start adding age, and once you get it over like 35, weight cutting gets hard. Um, but even for the younger females with their hormones and everything, like it's just harder on us. But you're also right on the frame, like Borga, right? When her and Freya were gonna fight or did fight, um, just asking her to cut down, that was hard on her. Like her body is amazing at 145. She's not built for a smaller weight class.
And so, like, bare knuckle obviously sounds like something that like is appealing to you and like the way that you got into combat sports, but like Tapology doesn't show any bare knuckle fights on your record. Have you had any amateur or anything bare knuckle fights, or is that something that you're in talks for? Because that's really the absolute roots of you as a fighter is bare knuckle.
You can't fight bare knuckle at amateur. Um, so my fight that I was supposed to have with the spider was bare knuckle. But that's just it. Like I'm gonna do the bare knuckle thing if Elizabeth accepts, because I've put everything on the table. Like, she can have whatever she wants. She's already said she wants it at 125. I've offered the entire fight purse, whatever she wants. She can literally request whatever. I'm going to concede to have the fight. But after that, Lethway is bare knuckle. It's bare knuckle Muay Thai with headbutts. So that's everything else. The rest of my career will be bare knuckle.
The leadweight stuff, because I saw you post that on Instagram too, like the headbutts like aspect in the workouts that are worked in. Like, how that's got to be a tough thing to adjust to, and training your mind to like think like throwing those is like something you're supposed to do.
I mean, I've done combat sambo, and it allows headbutts. I didn't think to headbutt till one of my opponents headbutted me, and then I grinned and headbutted her back. But that was a 3-day long migraine. And honestly, I would like to get through Lethway without having the headbutt. So I'm actually working more on defending against headbutts. But if it happens, I mean, I do know how to headbutt, so I'm not against throwing one.
I mean, it does sound like a higher stakes thing. Like if you're throwing one and you hit it, you're still smacking something hard with your head. So at least it's a strike that I don't think people are throwing, haphazardly. There's got to be a good amount of thought that goes into every single one of them.
Yeah. And I mean, if not, you knock yourself out, and then that's hilarious too. So, whatever.
Oh my God. Well, where are people able to actually compete in Lethway?
So that's really hard. Right now I'm signed up to do it in the UK. There's talks going on behind the scenes with British Lethway. They're trying to get Lethway Fighting Championship. That'll be somewhere in Asia, I believe. That would be really nice to be able to actually do Lethway in Asia. But honestly, I'm okay with doing Lethway wherever I can get a Lethway fight. It's actually legal in one state in the United States, but nobody's actively running them. I just want to have a Lethway fight, so it doesn't really matter to me at the end of the day where it is or who it's with.
I mean, like, yeah, I see why that would maybe have trouble in the United States, but at least there's one state holding it down for, it's just so hard. I mean, think about how hard it was to convince people for years that MMA should be legal. And then, you just have people that don't like listen or follow combat sports, and then trying to explain to them, like, look, man, like, I know it's a headbutt, but a strike is a strike. People aren't throwing these like, without thought and everything. So, I wish states would be just like as open as possible about regulating combat sports. And, it's still, when it comes down to it, boxing is still the professional sport that sees, however many deaths on average per year. There's a reason for that. And it's because there's a lot of strikes to the head that, that's the goal of it. So, but that's how long it took to convince, like, these dudes in suits in Washington, D.C., like, hey, MMA should be legal. And they're like, I don't know. It seems pretty brutal. And, then eventually they come around to that. And then, there's one state willing to, okay, a format that allows for headbutts, bunch of squares.
Well, the biggest thing too, because when I've been talking to British Lethway about it and some of the other ones, they said what comes up with the commission is the headbutts. They also don't like the knockout rule. So in Lethway, you get 2 knockouts that you can recover from. You get 5 minutes to recover and decide if you want to continue to fight. The third knockout's final. A lot of commissions do not like the idea of somebody taking that much damage. And they kind of just shut it down as soon as they hear the rule set for Lethway. So that's what I come up against a lot.
Do you have any idea what state it is that does allow it?
I don't remember. I thought it's out west. I'm sure of that, but I used to do research like there's 2 states that allow mutual combat where you can agree to fight another person and you could just go and fight and there's no legal repercussions. Uh, I know a lot of that's
Awesome.
Texas and Washington, I think. So I've offered a few people the ability to fly out there and fight me because I make a lot of people mad. Part of me thinks it's funny. Part of my personality is to irritate people until they fight me. That's just who I am.
It works,
It does. It really does work.
I mean, we see it all the time. Like, I always hate when I see people when they get like an opportunity to speak or they're on their social media or like say they win, they get like the microphone in their face, like, what do you want next? And they either say the same thing that 1,000 other people have said or they don't say anything at all. And it's like, dude, these are wasted opportunities, man. It's real easy to bother somebody into fighting you. All you have to do is say their name and be like, I'll beat you. And like, even that amount is enough for people. And if that's the fight you want, then that's a good thing. You know, you made that happen.
Yeah. And that's me. I'm like, I'll literally tell people anybody has a shot, take it or don't. But, if you don't, you're a chicken because I'm fine with fighting whoever. But I think a lot of people think I run my mouth because I'm arrogant. I'm not. I'm just trying to piss them off enough to actually come fight me. That's all.
So, Rachel, you're 45 years old, and you've got a lot of plans for what is to come here in the next year. You've got that's what we've been talking about is what you've got lined up. Is You very much strike me as someone who will say the plan is to keep fighting as much as you can, like because you like to fight so much. It just seems like the only thing that would ever stop you from fighting is being physically incapable of taking a fight.
I would love to say that's how it's going to be, but the plan right now is that I quit fighting after this year. It's going to be hard, but that is the plan currently. I'm going to go out with a bang and then probably hang up my hat.
Like, I very much support you in that decision. At the same time, like, I know that's going to be a very difficult thing for you to do. Like, if there's one thing I have picked up in this conversation, it's that like you hanging it up would be a very difficult thing for you to follow through with.
Yeah, I mean, it will. It will be extremely hard. I've always joked that I'm going to be the little old lady in the nursing home that has secret fight clubs, right? I don't know, though. Everybody's begging me to stop. So we'll see.
I mean, there's only so much of that you can ever, resist, I guess. There's only so much in anybody's life. If somebody, if multiple people in your life are asking you to do something, there's only so much time you can really put that off for, it seems.
Yes.
Well, folks, this has been another interlude episode of the Tab That MMA podcast with Rachel Unbreakable Beauchamp. Rachel, thank you so much for being here. This has been a very interesting conversation. And anything else you want to say or anybody you want to shout out, the floor is yours.
Of course, I want to shout out my gym, New Millennium Martial Arts, my sponsors, Carolyn's Geek Boutique. You should look her up. She makes lots of custom items, especially if you're into kind of like different types of movie characters or video game stuff. Jack Jam's one of my biggest sponsors. And I love Fight Club Crate. You mentioned them earlier. It is an amazing subscription, also a sponsor. Fund Your Fight Camp. David is one of my sponsors, and he has helped immensely. So I know I'm forgetting several other sponsors. I have a lot, but I'm grateful for every single one of them.
Folks, Thank you so much for listening to another Interlude episode of Tap That. Follow me on Instagram at RotoBrady MMA. We got UFC Freedom coming up this weekend, so we'll be in conversations about that as the week goes on. Folks, thank you so much for listening. Have yourselves a great week and peace.
Thank you.